Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Cylinder Stream. It has been officially 2 weeks since the Eternal Cylinder has launched. We're here today with Carlos Bordeu, game director, to talk more about the game and to show some awesome stuff. So, hey, welcome, Carlos.
Hello, how's everyone?
Hopefully, you guys are great. Thanks for joining us. So, we're going to begin, as we do, with a contest. We asked our lovely community in Discord if they would share with us an imagination of what they think the Hypertongue grub looked like. Now, this is not something in game, it's mentioned in the Grashduke description, just basically one word saying it was I believe, a predator that could eat them. And wow, you guys really delivered on this.
Yeah, this was
Do you want to announce?
yes, but to give a little bit of context. So basically, with Jonas, the writer of the game, we for each of the creatures we have to come up with a description and sort of figure out where they fit in the nature of the game and everything. So here, Jonas was basically describing the creatures that this Hypertongue grub is like this extinct creature. So there's basically no, you can't really see it in the game itself, but it does give an interesting seeing how the glitch ball turns into the Tongle groblet and then the Tongle grub. I think it was a very interesting case to show, like, to open up the imagination of people what might this big giant version of the Tongle grub be. So I'm going to go and announce the winners.
Drum roll.
Drum roll. So in first place we have Dark Edge TV Rebecca with this really nice render. I think this is done in 3D.
Yeah, the textures are amazing here.
Yeah, it's a really nice version of the Tongue grub. I like how the new tail and everything. It's very faithful to the design, and I think it matches well, like a way it could have evolved. But I love it. It's really cool.
What do you think about the fact that the kind of vomit sack inside seems to like be multiple vomit sacks that go all the way back into its long little tail there? That
Yeah.
seems extra dangerous.
Yeah, it's interesting. Here comes an anecdote with regards to the reason the Tongue grub was designed the way I did. I came up with a design of this particular creature. And we knew in the game that we were going to have like very like organic terrain that which tends to be quite an annoyance for game developers. You usually want your games to be kind of flat in terrain and kind of evened out, because it makes for navigation of AI so much more simple. So the bumpier, the more irregular the terrain you have, it makes it harder for your creatures to sort of place their feet on appropriately on the ground and everything. So I knew this was going to have to be a large predator that was going to have to chase the player in a very uneven terrain, so all sorts of environments. So the idea started from there to have this kind of boulder thing on the bottom with the two legs on the sides, which meant it could pivot from like a central point. And you can see sometimes it actually raises its claws and sort of rolls at you, which means at that point you basically have one contact point within the enemy touching floor, and that's very convenient for game development. Quadrupeds tend to be a lot more difficult because you have multiple legs can be touching the ground. So yeah, so the tail would be a challenge to do on if we did a sequel and we had a creature with such a large tail that was being dragged around. But yeah, the design is awesome.
Yeah, it's like a possessed seal just coming at you really fast.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Okay, and now our second place winner.
Let me show. Oh, where is here? We have the Hypertongue. This one is number 2 from Sony, and this one is also amazing. I really like This one also has like a giant tail, and the tusks, like this one evolved quite a bit more. The facial features of this creature, I see it having changed more than the previous contestant. But that's really interesting because it's so creative. The design with these big tusks is actually very menacing. So yeah, I love it. It's really cool.
I love the scale, right? Like they have the little one for scale. Can you imagine how huge this would be in the game? It'd be as tall as a cylinder.
Yeah, I know that would be also quite a challenge to do. Like it's huge. Well, he has the hyper glick ball there. That is quite the that would be quite the scene to see this like giant glick ball coming at you.
Okay, and now for something totally different. Burbs and Beebs.
Yes, this one is really cool also. Queen of the Savannah. This one changes quite a lot. It actually, in order to get like this, I think the Tongo grub would have to sort of bend forward and like almost have a second mouth. That's what I really like about this one. It's like the concept that as it evolved, it sort of started leaning forward, and it almost opens up a second mouth with this acid, which can shoot maybe a different type of projectile acid. It's very creative. I like it quite a bit. I find it also cool that everyone decided to add a tail, but the original one does have like this small tail, so it would kind of make sense to have maybe the tail grow into something kind of massive.
Yeah, this is a super hard decision. So these are all.
No, yeah, these were all so good. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the quality of artwork that the community has produced. Congratulations.
And our honorable mention, we usually don't show those, but this one was kind of an exception. Meep Lord or Pistachio.
Yeah. I really like the style of the drawing here in a sense that it has this kind of a little bit more cartoon style of visual. Like I can almost see it going and appearing in another game like I don't know what's the name, the new Xbox game that came out from Tim, Psychonauts 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I could see him like one a creature for that title. Yeah, but I love it. It's really cool. The antennas and all the personality it has. It's really great. This one is the previous one was from Burps and Beeps, and this one is from down there, the Meep Lord.
Yeah, the Meep Lord or Pistachio in Discord. All right, now I know you have a surprise for us. Do you want to?
Yes. So, when I was told that this contest was going on, I had to go to Jonas and say, well, since this is your creation, I think it's only fair that you show to the community the actual real design of the Hypertongue grub, so that everyone can see what a real Hypertongue grub does. So I asked him to do me a little bit of some artwork, and this is what he came up with.
Oh, the writer. The best is the so angry. That's my favorite part of this.
Yes, it was very funny because the first thing I came up to him, I didn't even ask him, I didn't tell him like the entire the story behind it, why I was going to ask him to draw me something. I just asked him directly, how well do you draw? And he answered, awful. And I said, excellent, amazing.
Yes.
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 So now I need you to draw me this creature because you invented it. So it's your responsibility to come up with the actual visual design.
There you go. And I put a new emoji into the Discord server for Eternal Cylinder so we can commemorate this forever. So there you guys go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, huge congrats to all of you. Your prize is that we talk about your art. Sorry, we don't have something amazing to send to you, but hopefully you enjoyed Carlos going over this and kind of talking about his thoughts on the design. So there you go.
Yes, yes, it's been really great. I've seen not only these, I've seen some other people. I've seen a lot of people who've shared artwork of Trebum on Twitter and on Discord, and yeah, it's really something seeing people take something that you created and start doing their own stuff. Yeah, it's really amazing. So everyone is very happy at this studio. So like we really appreciate seeing people just dive into the game, dive in and create their own artwork. Good things.
Awesome. Okay, so if you have the game currently, and why do you not? First, if you don't, you should definitely pick it up. But if you do have the game, you notice that Hotfix 1 just went live yesterday. So update your game. It addresses some bugs that you've been reporting. So thank you so much for letting us know any of that stuff. That is all in Discord in the patch notes channel. Anybody who's kind of stuck in progression or any of that stuff is all there. So check it out. There's a link that just went into the chat here for the live stream. But unless you want to talk further about that, we'll jump into Discord questions. What do you think, Carlos?
Yeah, there's. I think Daniel has been very active on Discord, sort of helping out people, and I think the rule for this patch is that if you're stuck on a non-progression, that is one of those that were fixed. That you do not use the when you enter the game, you do not continue from you load the previous checkpoint. The game basically saves autosaves, and it has a system where you can load previous checkpoints. And that should fix the situations that were fixed for the hotfix. We're actually working on a lot more minor fixes of many things that have been reported or found by the community, also improvements to stuff. So that will be a kind of a patch, like more of like an official patch 1.1. I'm not sure what the naming will be, but that one is planned for later for PC and consoles.
Excellent. Ansel is also a part of this patch, and we're going to show a video of that later to kind of walk people through how to use it. But you should have some amazing screenshot opportunities with Ansel if you have an NVIDIA card. So we will tell you more about that in our social media. We'll show you a walkthrough on how to use it if you have questions. But anyway, let's jump in our Discord questions. But if you'd like to play and talk about the game, I will just throw these at you randomly while you play.
Let me start off the game.
The Trebum was drawn to a bright light, or perhaps to the creature next to it.
John 1234690. This patch will solve your problem, and that's what he was just talking about. So if you start at a checkpoint, you'll be solved.
On the old one's head, they were very much alike. The one encompasses too much,
gameplay here,
making it the same.
Okie dokie. So, disclaim here, I'm going to be playing. So if anyone who hasn't advanced all that much in the game or who hasn't beat it, the plan for today is actually I'm going to be showing from the beginning of chapter 4, which was never shown in any of the previous live streams. So if you really don't want to be spoiled, I think this would be a good moment to. I'm sorry, we're not trying to kick you out or anything, but
spoilers, guys.
Spoilers in case you do not want to see the content that I'm going to be showing. But I feel it's been enough time that maybe we can start sharing some insight into some of the aspects of the designs that appear on the 4th chapter, because it's very interesting. Some of the things that we did, a lot of things that are seen in chapter 4 are actually very early parts of the design of the game. So yeah, I'll be jumping in right now. Oh no, I pressed continue. I have to go back and go to chapters. Unless yes. Start chapters. There we are.
Let us know if the audio needs any balancing, guys. Hopefully it's perfect.
It had felt like a short time to the Trebum.
So this is shortly after, this is right after you've gone into the cylinders sort of mind. You went into the mathematician and you're coming out from that level where you actually get the cylinder to speak in this level. And right from the start, the cylinder activates. It starts with this lightning aggressive form that it takes other times in the game. At this point, one interesting thing I wanted to talk about was we knew that people were going to have to sort of run away in this relatively open area. And if you look, the floating palace isn't there anymore, and I knew people were probably going to try to run away by ground. But what we did is that we added this sort of hand here with the red light, and sort of as a way to show people like a new path on the water, where you get to walk on top of these giant heads. I wanted from the very beginning people to immediately feel that there was something different in the world, and you can see in the horizon we have these giant human heads as part of the world. So you have not only the giant heads there in the horizon, you also have these ones that are kind of sunk in the lake. So I tried to design this path where people would sort of get a better view of some of the stuff, but I assume some people probably sort of went around on foot in the desert section. That's the sort of thing that's kind of interesting. You never really know what people are going to do, and you can sort of suggest paths, and but you're not really sure what people are going to do. So in this case, that's one of those cases where there's multiple ways of reaching the end goal.
SMJ James is asking and saying that you were immune to the lightning if you stay in the water, but you'll get zapped if you're close enough to shore. Is that part of the design idea?
I'm not sure that you're immune in the water if you go far enough. I think you will get... it might be because the lightning zaps go all the way to the bottom. Because they hit the floor. Yes, it might be true. It might be true. It might be true that the lightning zaps, because the lightning zaps, what they do is that they hit the ground and they sort of produce an electric discharge. Yeah, I assume it is true that you're probably safe as long as you keep on top of water. So we have these giant heads. There are versions that get like pushed under the cylinder, like in this case where it's almost being pushed from the nose. And for the longest amount of time, we had a very nasty bug in this section of the game where this path that I created on the lake would disappear while you were riding it, like while you were traversing it. It was very difficult for us to figure out why the parts of the terrain were disappearing instead of like as the cylinder started advancing. And eventually we figured out that the problem was that parts of the path were connected to parts of the terrain that had already been flattened by the cylinder. So as the whole world kind of gets flattened, parts that have been destroyed for a while, we need to like remove them from memory, and we need to take them out, because if not, we would have just too many resources being spent on basically something that doesn't exist anymore. So part of the path that we had in the central river, central lake, sorry, was a part of terrain that had already been flattened, and it was being despawned basically because of an optimization.
Gotcha. All right, I'm going to throw you some questions that have no relationship to anything you're doing right now, but I'll let you know. What was the plot for the original prototype Endless Cylinder? Was it different than the one for the final game?
I think the main elements were all there. The original prototype actually did have the mathematician. We just never showed it in public, but we did show it to when we were sort of pitching the game around at the beginning. So there was a slightly more advanced version of the prototype where you would actually have the cylinder rolled up to a certain point, stop, the mathematician would come out, and then he would pull out this walker enemy, which doesn't appear in the game. I think we made in Twitter a video about that enemy that later became the Liberator. We basically replaced that enemy for the Liberator. So I would say that the main actors of the game all existed there, but there were some very significant differences with regards to the story that did change once I had an opportunity to discuss the story further with Jonas. The mathematician had a different role in the original plot as I envisioned it, but later when we started discussing more about the game, we felt that the cylinder itself, given its importance and also being like the titular like element in the game, we needed to make it kind of the central piece, like the central enemy in the game. Whereas in the original design, it was actually the mathematician.
Okay. Well, Adair's asking, they're circling back to previous live streams where they remember everything you've said. And they said, why did you say the moon was spoilers? We don't get any information. We need to know about the moons.
The moon, you're talking
it's
about
the
square
yeah.
thing in the sky. It is not explained anywhere, actually. That's one of those things where I'm kind of keeping it for later.
Oh, okay, nice.
So no, there's nothing being explained about why it is, but it is something artificial. It's not. It's almost like a satellite.
Will Adair asks, what do you think the Trowalla's realm looks like? What other creatures would dwell there?
In the Trowalla's world?
Yes.
I think definitely the Trowalla's world is also kind of a mystery that we would want to explore maybe in another game. Obviously, it isn't said exactly why the Trowalla abandoned their world, but at the very least, it's kind of clear that they were running away from something, that there's some level of tragedy going on, because since they hear the call of the Trebhum and they're moving on to a new world, it almost seems as that they're having the troubles of their own, and arriving to this new and mysterious planet gives them an opportunity to start again. Obviously, the Song of the Trebhum is what also calls the cylinder, so there's an unfortunate event that takes place there for the history of the Troa. From the very beginning, one of the core design aspects that I wanted to convey for the game is that the players would find themselves in a completely alien world where everything was not that similar to what you see on Earth. However, by putting human elements in the game, like for instance this human head, with this clearly human head, you would see something that was alien to an alien world. And I think that was a very strong theme that I wanted to portray in the art and the story, because for anyone at this point who's finished the game, they do understand that the humanity, our race, had a role to play in the story of the game, and it was very interesting for me to sort of show a completely like surprise people with something totally unexpected. Because what happens if you're doing a game where everything is alien, so the plants are aliens, the creatures are aliens, the enemies, everything, if you put something kind of weird, any creature you will want to sort of design will really not have that much impact. I mean, it's cool, yeah, all the creatures are amazing, but it's kind of expected that all the animals will be weird. But when you see something like the servants of the cylinder or these giant human heads, you immediately have go to kind of another level of surprise, because why are things that I see as something from our world appear in this totally alien world? And that's something that definitely was something we wanted to portray from the beginning, at the beginning of the game.
We have a couple questions about the Grash Tube, which I call Grash Tube. How do you pronounce it? Nintendo Nate would like to know. Grash Tub? Grash Tube? How do you say it?
That's a good one for Jonas. I think it's Grash Tube, but I would have to confirm with him. I call it the Grash Tube, so I guess we can agree it's.
We'll go with that for now.
We'll go for that. Yeah, Jonas did a lot of sort of reading about sort of scientific names of flora, fauna, and animals to come up with interesting names for the creatures. And he would always start from our placeholder names and start to try to move to something from there. So the Grash Tube, in the placeholder name that the way we named it in the game, this is one of Edmundo's creatures, is the Tooth Tube. And that's kind of pretty obvious because it's a tube with a lot of tooth, so it's a tooth tube.
Okay.
So, yeah, some of the names changed quite a lot, but some of them kind of kept parts of the kind of silly developer names that we came up with. This
John 1234690 is asking about the adult Grash Tube. They believe that the ones in the game are juveniles because there's a scene where one of them gets crushed by the cylinder when it's eating a dead serpent that seems bigger. Are these grown or juveniles that we see?
No, I would say that the one that's eating the one that's actually eating the Troala is, I would say, it's the same size. I think it's the same size. It's just that the scale, the proportion of the scale seems different when you look at it in context of something giant right next to it. It might be a little bit different in scale, but it's not that different in scale. And the one thing that's different about it, and I think it's a detail very few people actually might have noticed, is that the one that's eating the Troala is kind of changing in color. It's kind of blue. So the other ones are red. So this one is kind of eating the one that's eating the Troala is kind of absorbing its color. And that was a little interesting detail that's part of the Grash Tube's way of eating creatures that maybe a few people caught on. So this particular puzzle pyramid was a way for us to play around with this mutation, where you have to use the click ball to take them to this area. So you have this sort of barrier here that if you try to jump into, but if you try to sort of grab the click ball and throw them by force inside, you can't get them inside. So it's kind of obvious that we're being asked to bring them in here, but you really can't get away with simply grabbing them and sort of bringing them, because what happens if I simply walk around with one of them, I just leave him here, he would run away. But now that I use my magic flute, then I can get them to come as my little friends and solve the puzzle. I think I need more buddies.
Sombrero Cucumber wants to know, how much playtesting did you do for this game? Oh my.
Oh no. I would say this is by far the game that I probably played over and over and over and over. I mean, so many times I played through the entire game. And made, I had a full, notebooks of pages and pages and pages of tiny little bugs. And at the beginning, they weren't tiny little bugs, they were quite significant ones. and eventually I would start. We would start narrowing down the issues to smaller issues, but there was a point in development where I was playing the game non-stop, and it would take me a couple of days to beat it from start to finish. I would pretty much speed run a lot of sections of the game because it was so exhausting to play it over and over again. But yeah, this is one of those games that for the size of our studio was quite a challenge to play test for.
Yeah, Good Shepherd has QA department as well that was on this for a while, and we had several rounds with our community testers really early on in the game to get kind of our community feedback from our secret group of testers. So yeah, it's been a labor of love for everyone.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad to see the reactions are awesome.
And it's good that we got a lot of help from people early on. The game, if you would have seen the feedback that we were getting at the very, very beginning, it was mostly confusion. People not knowing where to go, what to do, nothing was clear. Reaching the point where the game became more understandable was quite a challenge because there were so many features in the game together that it was quite a big challenge. This part, I think some people might recognize it from previous live streams. I did do this basketball sort of game I showed off in a test level before.
Yep.
So what I did back then when we did that live stream was basically I sort of took out this part and I put it in a test level. We were playing around a little bit with the physics and throwing around the click balls, so I basically kind of reversed engineered this puzzle because I already knew that the force with which these click balls had to be thrown to fall precisely on that pad, what it was. So yeah, this puzzle, for instance, is created by Tomás Jiménez, Tom, one of our level designers of the game, and it was really fun because he's one of those people who entered in the game. I'm not sure if Tom started out with us when the game started. No way. And he's very creative, and at some point we had to come up with additional puzzles for the game, like additional interior areas, and I really love this one because this is all his. This is one of those areas that was entirely made by one person.
They're asking what that dead creature is at the beginning. Also, I'm hearing some noise about lag. Do you see anything funny there?
No.
Do you guys see lag and now the stream's buffering a little bit? We'll watch for it and see what the community says. I think that's a Oinkyfurt, the dead creature at the beginning.
Yes,
is it?
it is an Oinkyfurt. It's this was this creature, the opened up one, was a model that was made with a different intention in the game that was repurposed for this area. So one of the things that we planned on doing at one point in the game was that if you would have certain areas where some of the larger predators were patrolling, you could find yourself with dead versions of the lesser enemies that had been either eaten or had died. So proximity to these corpses would signal danger in a sense that you were probably nearby maybe an area where a larger predator was roaming. However, that became quite complicated to implement and maybe gave the game a little bit too much of a creepy vibe, sort of that wouldn't have been maybe the best choice. So in the end we decided, okay, since chapter 4 still has a little bit more of an oppressive tone and a little bit more like this eerie style, maybe we can reuse this character here, and it fits very well because basically the world has kind of blended in between two between the what came out from the mind of the cylinder and the what's there. So this creature might have just been afraid and ran inside into the temple and got caught there and basically died.
Okay, I'm watching our bitrate. We were dropping really fast. Now we're okay again, but I'll let you know. We were experiencing some lag, and the stream was buffering a lot, so they couldn't probably hear a bit of what you said there. So let's just keep an eye on that.
Okay.
I'll let you know if it lags, and we might have to just restart it real quick.
Okay. So yeah, another interesting thing that might be worth mentioning about these pyramids is that in the original design of the game, the pyramid areas were there was one pyramid which would repeat itself multiple times in the game, which is the one that has the skeleton of the mathematician. So the very first pyramid that you enter into the game, it was different. It was actually the shrine where you use the upgrades. Oh, there's a monster inside a rock. Nice. Known issue. Okay. So that pyramid would repeat itself quite a few times in the game, and what we figured out that was better to put the these upgrade thingies inside the shrines themselves, the small Trebhum shrines. Oh, I fell down. I'm gonna die.
All right. Tintin says the game has received positive reviews all around. Was there any experience about that was particularly heartwarming?
I think it was more nerve-wracking than heartwarming because we didn't know what to expect. It's actually our best-rated game ever, the Eternal Cylinder, which is really, really, really nice because we've had some really highly rated games before, like Rock of Ages 2, for instance, is a very highly rated game from ours. The first Xenoclash is also, we actually won some pretty significant awards for those. And to see Eternal Cylinder basically one up in the review space, all our previous titles was a little bit of a surprise because we didn't know what to expect. Because the thing is that when you do something that's very, very different, you say, okay, it's very likely that some people will really like it and love it and fall in love with it, and that's something we expected. I mean, we knew some people were going to really like it because of how bold the concept was and how much we were trying to do that was new. But that also had the potential problem is that people who maybe aren't so open-minded about trying new stuff might have been bored or found it just too weird and sort of rated us negatively or averagely compared. And that didn't really happen that much. I mean, there are some reviews that aren't like super high, but even our kind of average reviews are around 7 out of 10. I think there's only one review that drops under 7 for the whole game, which for me is quite remarkable. I didn't expect that. I thought that at least some couple of reviewers would say, you know what, this is way too weird for me. I really don't grasp what they were going for here. And yeah, 5 out of 10. Okay. and it's really been amazing seeing how well received the game has been.
One of the things we get requested a lot is for a new game plus, meaning that you could finish the game and then go back and play it and keep the same things you'd unlocked, mutations, options, stuff in your menu, all that stuff. Do we have thoughts to share about that sort of thing, or?
We've been thinking about what we can do with regards to giving more people more things to do after the game is finished. because I understand that basically some people might have gone into the game thinking about, okay, so this is a survival game. Survival games tend to be kind of infinite, and that was one of the things that I was usually had to sort of repeat so many times with when we were doing previous live streams. It's a survival game, but it's not. It's not like a survival game because it has a story, so it has a beginning, it has an end, and we knew that was something that some people would want more, because the technology and everything that we have in the game allows us to basically place the player in kind of an open-ended world and let them explore and run around as much as they can. What my main concern is with that, and what we need to do, is think about what would players be doing, because the game does have a structure. So the game is kind of all the time is throwing things at you that are kind of new. So in a sense, it's very unlike the design of survival games, because survival games are more about the game gives you like tools with which you can build or and sort of gradually improve. Like maybe start with a hut, a tent, then you go for a hut. You have a hut, and you're sort of opening up a map. In our game, you're basically getting rid of the map. Never remains. You basically run away because the cylinder basically destroys what was left behind. So in a sense, the game is designed more like an like almost like an adventure game, where we knew we had to be showing new stuff at people all the time. Like you would go into the game, so in this chapter we're going to put this enemy that's going to be totally new, and we're going to have this experience, or we're going to have this puzzle, and we're going to have always trying to have something different. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do. I think we are going to do some form of free exploration thing for a new game plus or something, maybe at a later content update. But I still have to talk about that with the team and see what we come up with, because I do think the game requires some level of structure, and we would have to come up with something.
Okay. Let's see. There is a question by Willow Deer about the servants using other parts of thousands of civilizations, and they're asking if they would use parts of ones that we haven't seen. Like, how come they're not using all 1,000 of the civilizations?
Yeah.
We only see like a very limited part of it.
Yes, it's pretty clear that the servants of the cylinder and the cylinder is using like things from the human world in his conquest of this particular planet. That means that the human world was basically crushed. It was one of the last worlds that was destroyed before the cylinder arrives to this one. So the cylinder would have used servants from culture from other races to sort of absorb other worlds, and for this particular one, he's basically using things that he took from the human world. That's not something that we would need to limit ourselves to if we wanted to do maybe a sequel or something. It's obviously something that would be interesting to explore. Yay.
Fair enough.
But the main reason the servants of the cylinder are using human things ties into the thing that I was talking about earlier, where seeing human things in this world would be something that would surprise the player quite a bit, and would also give you a hint of parts of the story. And if we would have done the servants of the cylinder with parts of a race that people have never seen, they would have been a lot more difficult to interpret as servants of the cylinder. I mean, the mechanical parts would have been maybe the common thing that they had, but in this case, by having human parts as well as mechanical parts, they're super distinct from everything else in the game.
Definitely. We have a couple questions about songs here, so I'm going to kind of group them together. I'm the Kaiju King says there's a lot of songs or snippets of songs that weren't released with the soundtrack. Will they be released as well? And then Saramus is saying that if they are, he will play his violin about them. So maybe it's a good time to talk about the newsletter and soundtrack, etc.
Yeah, we did release. I mean, those people who joined the newsletter, we did release the original soundtrack of the game, and that was a little bit of work that I did with Patricio. So we kind of selected what was, musically speaking, the best content of the game. But Patricio, the musician behind all the themes in the game, he was concerned that if I just simply sort of grabbed all the music in the game and I just simply spitted it out, like to make a CD or what, like a master or a soundtrack, that some music that was very incidental or used for like very specific things, like a success thing, like that. Ta-da! It's like something very, very small that it would not add value, rather than distract from the more important tracks in the game. I can understand I think there's not that many tracks that were really not put in there, and I would say that most of them are relatively small. And if you'll notice at the soundtrack, in the end of the soundtrack, you can there's several themes that are called extra, like extra blah 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 this, extra blah blah blah, and those themes were kind of the tracks that were almost left out, but I felt that we couldn't, like, that they were good enough that I still wanted to keep them in. I mean, Patricio, when he told me which tracks to select for the original soundtrack, he was actually going to take out more than, and I told him, no, you can't take this one out. So it was a back and forth between me and him, because I think musically he wanted to sort of heighten his best work.
Makes sense. Okay. So for those of you who haven't, please do sign up for the newsletter. We're sending out, we used to send it out every month. It'll probably be more periodic now that the game is released, but it's all sorts of like exclusive behind the scenes, what does Carlos think about things kind of stuff. And for those of you who signed up, it's been a while since the announcement. So we sent you all a link to where the MP4 or MP3s are for the soundtrack. So everyone could have them that had signed up for that newsletter. I know that Ace also has a YouTube channel where you could listen to the music if you just want to play YouTube. But that will be ending. That link for those of you who did sign up is going to expire at the end of this month on the 30th. So if you have not checked your email and you signed up before the launch of the game, please check your email and make sure that you get your MP3s for the soundtrack. We're being a little secretive about them. Like once the link expires, you're not going to be able to get them again. We'll probably use them for prizes and other cool things. But yeah, check your email and there you go.
This particular temple is one of my designs that someone had to, Mundo went through it and sort of simplified it. Originally, I knew that I wanted to do something with the capacity to possess statues in order to get different views of the level. That would allow you to decipher puzzles in the game. I'm very happy to see that not a lot of people complained about this temple in the Discord or other places. I thought it might have the danger that some people might have been kind of really confused about it. So thanks to Mundo for sort of simplifying it. It was a lot more convoluted, the original version which I had, because you basically you had these statues through which you can kind of possess and move your view, and you had to like sort of run through them all the way from the beginning, from where this kind of clock thing is at the beginning, on the other side of the structure. I think
Plushbean is asking a story about this that kind of, I guess maybe has some relationship to this. The Trebons always talk about passing this light. They're passing the light on.
yes.
And you know, you're jumping all around here. How does that? What does that mean? What is the light?
So basically, the elder at the very beginning of the game, that elder was the one that had the light that allows you to activate the towers that stop the cylinder. So basically, it's not that that's like a power that's been granted to the Trebom as they start off in the game. So basically, the little team, the little family that you get in the game, the ones that you're controlling, have with them this light which allows them to activate the towers, which allows them to stop the cylinder. It's one of the things that we basically discussed with Jonas to sort of give them a role, like an important role from the very beginning of the game.
Awesome. They love those elders. They're asking how complicated this puzzle was before you simplified it. What did you used to have to do?
So in the original version, you actually had to stand, I think, something like on a rock over here, in this area, and you would have these statues of the ones you had to possess. You would have to sort of find them everywhere. I think there was one over there where I'm looking, then there was one over here, and you had to like sort of tag them one by one, going all the way around the entire cave to the point where you would actually see the clock. And there was a reason why you couldn't do it you had to do it from the start, and you couldn't do it from the end point. It's because I think the buttons, I can't remember, but it was way more complicated. And eventually we figured out that the game is still asking you to learn so many things. Like there's no purpose in trying to make things more difficult for the sake of it. The puzzles are more interesting when they feel more balanced.
They're asking a couple questions about the elders. First of all, Wallager wants to know, who is your favorite elder? Do you have a favorite one?
It's a tough one. Let me think.
I like the red one that's square. I forget his name.
The red one?
The furry one that looks like Snuffy from...
Yeah, that's from the second temple. I think I like the big giant square one. It's like so... Because that one really shows you what the shape of how a Trebom, an adult Trebom with a pretty significant mutation would look. And that's cool because it opens up the imagination so much to what shapes and forms that the elders could take. There's actually some pretty cool designs for elders that were from, you can see them in the end of the game, the credit section, where a very, very, very significant part of the story is actually told in the credits. So if you skip the game and you sort of said, okay, I beat it, and before you start seeing the credits, where the credits roll, and you have these little like animated drawings that sort of start going down. I also think that the best song in the game that Patricio composed is maybe the credits theme, which is really, really, it's beautiful. And yeah, you can see some very nice elders in that section.
Danielle is reminding you to check to see if you have Unreal 4 open, and perhaps that's causing lag.
No,
he's
I do
to bug
not.
report even now.
No, that's actually not. I have Slack, Skype, Discord, Perforce, maybe Perforce. Let's see.
There you go. A huge thanks, Danielle, by the way. Like, he's been awesome in Discord, just getting all the info from everybody that's had any kind of challenges.
Okay.
No one's uploading a new version of the build. I've had that happen in live streams before. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anything. It could be Discord. Well, if we're experiencing more problems, just let me know.
Okay. Okay. And speaking of elders, SMJ James wants to know what totals the Desert Cave Elder's skin mutation is. Apparently, the skin mutation looks pretty cool.
Skin mutation of which elder?
He said totals the Desert Cave Elder.
The Desert Cave Elder, yes. Yes. I'm not entirely sure that that's a mutation because he has like this hair, but I think the design, that's one of Edmundo's designs. I think it's more like I don't know if you see when old people have like these eyebrows, like very full hairy eyebrows, and they look
Yes.
kind of old. I always saw him more like actually being a little bit like that. Now, definitely he has some form of mutation because he has hair and Trouble like naturally don't have hair. So maybe maybe he has the fur mutation, but he's old and he lost all his hair.
All right, guys, we're wrapping up. We have a couple more minutes left. So if you have any last questions, just ask them now, and we will try to get them in here. I'm not gonna answer questions about the cylinder being a torus for geometry because we've gone over this a couple times, but it gets very complicated. So
Yeah.
some of them, yeah.
We already said that this game is Halo, so
Right, we've already admitted that.
already
We are going to have a live stream at some point, Carlos. I'm going to say the live stream topic is this game is not Spore, and then we'll just talk about all the differences between those two games, just because that's the one that most people identify with, just like the shape of the turbine.
Yes. I actually saw a streamer today was making some of the creatures of the game on Spore.
Yes, I love it when they do that.
That was so funny. Actually I was quite impressed with how well some of the creatures came out and using the Spore editor. It was really cool.
They are the only ones who can lift you into the heavens.
Yeah, but Spore definitely the game that's been most mentioned, though I think it's more because of some external similarities, but it's very different game.
Mutations, that word kind of triggers, I think,
Yeah,
comparisons
I
at
think the
times.
comparisons definitely.
Okay, they're asking, we have a hand of faith, so is there going to be an opposite of the hand of faith?
A hand of fate. You're talking about
Hand of fate, maybe that's what they're saying.
the hand of fate. We're talking about the giant.
Yes.
The monster. Yes. If you had to
I don't know what you'd call it the opposite of fate.
Yeah. Yes. If
random unpredictability.
if you had to vote for the ugliest creature in the game, I think that I'd vote for that one. The creepiest, because it was funny because at some point in the game I was getting some heat because my monsters designs were kind of too creepy, but Emundo managed to one up me, in my opinion, with that one. So it's a boss. I mean, bosses can be creepy. So, but if you've seen the head portion of the creature, the one that's glued onto the lens, that creature is really nasty.
Yeah, that is extremely creepy. I'm happy for that glass between us.
The Trevor tried to imagine the creature.
Okay, I think we're now an hour, so if you have anything else you'd like to share of where you are or any of that, we can probably wrap up. And what we like to do at the end of streams is raid other people who are playing the Eternal Cylinder. Usually we pick people that speak English just because we're speaking English right now. So we'll probably see if we can raid someone playing. If you want to stick around and watch them play, great. Otherwise, join our Discord. Here's a link for that, and we'd love to talk to you, after the stream.
Yay. Okay, guys. Well, it was a pleasure having another of these live streams. Hope it was interesting. There's so many more things I could have talked about the chapter 4. I didn't even go into some of the new enemies that appear in this section, but very happy with the reception of the game. Very happy to see everyone playing it, and see you another time.
Definitely. More to talk about for future streams. We do this usually every other Friday, so stay tuned for the end of the month here. We'll have another one coming up. And thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for the raid, and Jimas, make it happen. Thank you, Carlos. We'll just sign off.
Bye-bye.